All right, greetings everybody, and welcome to week number one. That is right, week number one of your 9407 class, which is your intellectual freedom and its discontents class. As always, I'm your professor, Dr. J.K. Austin, and what we're going to do in this week's check-in video is a course overview. So let's go ahead and get into that. These check-in videos, by the way, I will record check-in videos on most weeks wherein we do not have a sync session in this course, and we do not have a sync session in here until, well, actually we've got a sync session next week. So there will not be a check-in video next week, but we will have one this week. And in this week's check-in video, we are going to just go over what's going to be happening in this course. I'm going to show you how to speed this video up. And because I am from the rural South, I do speak slowly, so you are going to want to speed my videos up. So I am going to show you actually how to do that right now, and then after that we will start reviewing the course, starting with one of the announcements, and then we will go into the syllabus. But first, yes, let's go ahead and show you how to speed one of these videos up. Give me one moment. Okay, so yeah, I am going to show you how to speed up a video. I am going to also include some instructions on how to speed up a video. I'm going to include those instructions in the announcement for this check-in video, but I am also going to show you in video how to speed it up. And yes, you're going to want to speed me up at least to a 1.5, maybe even a 1.75. And students have told me that even when they speed me up to a 1.5 or a 1.75, they can still hear everything I'm saying and understand it. So let's say you've got Kidz Bop is a good choice because nothing on Kidz Bop should be offensive. So let's say you've got this. Alright, so you see how it's like normal pace song, normal pace dancing and everything like that. If you want to speed up a video, you can go here, go to playback speed, and again, you can usually take me up to a 1.5. So you see it's faster now. You can speed me up to 2 if you got to. But usually 1.5 is where people do it. 1.5 and 1.75. So that is how you speed a video up. But again, I am also going to post those instructions in the announcement. So you'll have those there as well. And you can speed me up from the beginning if you need to. All right, let's go ahead and get into the syllabus review. So let's go ahead and make me small there. Oh, actually, let's do the announcement first, because I do want you all to know what's going on or what's on tap for your sync sessions for this semester. So first of all, you do need to know that there are going to be 3 sync sessions. And for that first sync session, again, it's going to be next week, next Tuesday. All the sync sessions are going to be on Tuesdays, by the way. Tuesdays from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Central Time. That first one, August 27th, is going to be an intellectual freedom and neutrality panel. So we will have later on in the semester, we will have an entire module that is dedicated specifically to library neutrality. Are libraries neutral? That is a question that gets asked a lot in libraries, and it has been asked for decades. Now, me personally, I don't really like the question that much, because I do personally think that just by virtue of existing as public accommodations, public goods, I do feel that libraries are definitely not neutral, because they are taking a stance of, just off the bat, they're already taking a stance of being pro-literacy and pro-access to information, right? So they're not neutral in that sense. Now, when we talk about political neutrality, that gets into some different stuff, and quite frankly, I don't want to go there, at least not right now. Maybe we can get into it a little more as time gets closer, but that's why I bring a panel to talk about that. And so that panel will be speaking about that next week. I do have 4 confirmed people from the panel. I'm going to try to get a panel of 6, and I'll let you know who our participants are as soon as I get everybody locked in. On October the 1st, we're going to talk to Leanne Lord, who is actually a professional stand-up comedian, And when I say professional, I mean she's done big things. She's been on Def Comedy Jam. She's been on Comic View. She has been on The View. She's been on several things with Comedy Central. She has also gone on tour with Chris Rock, where she opened with him, and she was also the co-host of Star Talk Radio with Neil deGrasse Tyson for a while. So that's Leanne Lord. She will be speaking to us about intellectual freedom in comedy, and that is actually a very, you'll see why, hopefully, if I do my job right, you will see why comedy is a very valid area for us to explore our intellectual freedom rights and privileges. And then finally, this is something that is my fault. I take full blame for it, but it is what it is, and we're going to work around it. So, I should have made our final sync session later than this. It is going to be on November the 5th. I should have made it a little later than that. But what we're going to do on November the 5th, so here's how this is going to work. We have an intellectual freedom debate every semester. Every time this class is offered, every semester. So we have a student-led debate, and I'm going to pick between 6 and 8 people to be a part of that debate, 6 and 8 students. So if you want to, the debate is going to be on hate speech, first of all, and there are going to be 2 sides. One side is going to argue that hate speech should be protected by the First Amendment, and one side will argue that hate speech should not be protected by the First Amendment. I am going to put out a call for our participants probably on Wednesday afternoon, and give a week for people to respond. And if I don't have 6 participants by next Wednesday, a week from this coming Wednesday, then I am going to draft people to participate in the debate from there, and the debate will be held during this November the 5th synced session. The people who participate in the debate, by the way, will not have to do the final paper and will get a little bit of extra credit to where they can also exempt themselves from 2 of the discussion boards if they so choose, okay? But again, I'll put more information on the intellectual freedom debate in an announcement probably on Wednesday, all right? So that is what's going on as far as our guest speakers. These are mandatory. They do count for points, these sync sessions, so you do have to be there. And we also, these sync sessions are in real time. So you have to know when they start in your time zone, and not knowing when they start in your time zone is not an excuse to no-show. So the sync sessions will start at 7 here in Central Time. If you're in Eastern Time, they start at 8. If you're in Mountain Time, at 6. Pacific West Coast Time, they start at 5. All right, let's go ahead and get into this syllabus. So the course description: intellectual freedom is very frequently held to be a fundamental value of librarianship. Because of its importance, librarians must be able to define it theoretically and practically in order to completely understand what it means, so that it can be defended in practice. Collections, access, and services are all affected by how we define this freedom. As we will see, nothing about intellectual freedom is simple. Everything is complicated and complex. This course will address the topic in principle and in practice. Please note, and this is important. All right, so please note that we will discuss topics such as profanity, harassment, gender identity, racism, child pornography, religion, and sexuality in this course in a no-holds-barred fashion. Children should not be listening to the content of this course. There will be profanity used by the instructor, by me, and by your classmates, so you may want to wear headphones. This is something that I'm implementing based on student feedback from fall of 2023. So basically what happened in fall 2023 was, despite the fact that it's pretty clear that we talk about adult stuff in this class, including obscenity, including child pornography, including the dangerous situations that can happen in a library. We talk about adult things in here. And yes, we do have intellectual freedom, so we should be able to curse and all of those things within reason. We do have codes of conduct here, however, but yes, profanity is not off limits in this class. But what happened was, last semester, despite us having all of those very, very, despite having those contentious topics, and, just talking about things that you wouldn't talk about in front of children. Despite all of that, in a teaching evaluation, I did have somebody just lambast me last semester, and one thing that they said was, um, what if children were listening to the stuff that he said? Oh my God, he cursed in one of the classes, blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking, okay, why would children be listening to this stuff if you see this syllabus? So from now on, my way of remedying that is I am going to let you all know, yes, there's going to be profanity in here. I'm going to use some. Your classmates are going to use some. This is no holds barred. This class is not for the faint of heart. Intellectual freedom classes have to be gritty. They have to be contentious. They have to be all of that. And I know that some of you, based on your concentration, may have to take this class, but if you don't have to take this class and you're uncomfortable with a gritty environment, an environment where people may use a dirty word, an environment where people may talk about uncomfortable things, you need to get out of this class, okay? Because we're going to be talking about that stuff, and it's not going to be for the faint of heart, okay? And I'm not going to censor myself. We're talking about censorship in a bit. I'm not going to censor myself in an intellectual freedom class. That is absolutely absurd. Okay, so yes, if you want to wear some headphones, wear some headphones, all right? Now we do have some course objectives. In fact, I've got 4 listed, and let's talk about those 4. First of all, course objective number 1, understand the philosophical background and constitutional implications of intellectual freedom. Number 2, critique the entirety of the thought on intellectual freedom in librarianship and beyond. Number 3, realize the kinds of challenges that can arise and the reasons people give for them. And number 4, understand the position of and the demands on the librarian regarding intellectual freedom. So those are your course objectives right there. But yeah, basically, I want you all to come out of this class just understanding, appreciating, and being willing to protect the intellectual freedom of the librarians you work with, the library users you work with, and the communities that you serve. Course materials. There is no required textbook for this class. Course readings are available through Ellis Library and the open web. Here are the LIS resources to get you started. You will also need to read, listen, watch the news for this class, and how you do that is up to you. MU Libraries does have a newspaper page, so you can start there. Give me one moment here. All right, now one thing that I do want to say as I brought up that news piece is that this is one of the easiest ways to kind of keep up with what's going on and the news of what's going on related to intellectual freedom. And so I'm going to share these myself when I can, but I am going to encourage you all to sign up for these yourself. And that is the digest, the once weekly digest from the Intellectual Freedom blog run by the Office of Intellectual Freedom of the American Library Association. So if you subscribe to this, and again, I'm going to be uploading these in the class as well, but if you subscribe to this, then you'll have a bunch of headlines just right here. And whatever piques your interest and everything, you've got, by the way, you've got categories too. So you got censorship, privacy, and cybersecurity, First Amendment, academic freedom, legislation, state and local governance. You got a lot of good stuff here. All these are great. They compile them usually every week. And yeah, this is a good way to keep a handle on what's going on. And it's a good way to also gather sources for your discussions and for the assignments that you do. Okay. So this is something you may want to consider signing up for. All right, so back in it with the intellectual freedom syllabus here. As far as course policies, your participation is expected. Regular participation in the discussion is required. You must post meaningful contributions in order to receive full credit, so not some of this Me Too stuff. And while you are encouraged to bring personal experiences into the discussion, and quite frankly, I would love for you all to do that, and that's what makes the discussions really become robust and interesting. But you must look toward also including literature and doing things in the discussion boards outside of your own personal experience. Please show that you are listening to others and critically thinking about the readings. I need some evidence of that as you are doing the discussion board prompts. There are 15 discussion board prompt weeks as indicated in the syllabus, and the discussions run throughout the unit. If you want to take a weekend off, then just simply finish posting by Friday. While you are expected to post your initial post by Wednesday for each discussion board prompt, I am actually not going to count off if you don't. So basically, I do not enter grades until at the very earliest the Monday after the Sunday that something is due. So just because basically everything that you have to do for a unit, you have to do it within the week. You have to do it before Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Central Time, right? So with that, I do check into the class throughout the week, but I'm not going to be checking on the class so much that, yeah, if you haven't done your initial post on the discussion board prompt by Wednesday night, if I go in the class on Thursday and you haven't done it yet, that is not going to cause you any point deductions or anything like that. Again, I do not enter grades until after the unit is done. So each unit ends on Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Central Time. I do not enter grades until Monday morning at the earliest. So as long as you get everything in for that unit by Sunday night, a little bit of a grace period by Monday morning when I wake up, because I'm not going to be hanging around at midnight making sure that everything is in. So as long as you've got it in by the time I wake up on Monday morning, you'll be just fine, okay? You don't have to worry about getting your initial post up by Wednesday every single week. It'd be great if you can do that, but I'm not expecting you to be able to do that every week. Life happens, stuff happens, I understand. But yes, if you want the weekend off, you need to finish all your stuff by Friday. Late work, I am actually flexible on this, but I do need to have something in the syllabus so that I can cover my own behind when needed. Late work will automatically be lowered by 25% each day, and then after 3 days, it will not be accepted unless we have made prior arrangements. I say that so that I am protected. That is my legalese for my class written down. However, I will also say that I am human and I am understanding. So if you do want if you need a extension for something, by all means, just reach out to me. And the worst that I can do is tell you no, that I am willing to grant extensions on a lot of things. So, the university does entitle you to bereavement time if you lose, for instance, an immediate family member, basically. So if you lose a child, a parent, or a sibling, you are indeed entitled to bereavement time. But even going beyond that, beyond what the university entitles you to, I am saying, yes, it doesn't have to be an immediate family member. If you lose a friend, let me know. If you lose a cousin, let me know. If you lose a pet, let me know. I prefer my dog more than I prefer a lot of human beings. So I understand, if you lose anybody, just reach out to me and see what I say if you do need extra time. And then other things that can be stressing. If you have a very stressful medical diagnosis, let me know. I can extend you a day or two if you're just too depressed to do the work. If you have something happen like a boyfriend or a girlfriend breaks up with you, that's very depressing, So if an assignment is due on Sunday and you get dumped on Saturday, let me know. I'll give you Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday to try to recoup. I'll tell you to turn it in on Wednesday and that sort of thing. And then also it doesn't have to be negative, right? So there can be positive things that you can get an extension for. If your child has a recital and they need to prepare for that recital and you need to help them, by all means, just let me know. Children are very important. If you have a family function, if you're getting married, if you have a family vacation, just let me know. I'm willing to work with you. And then also, yes, if you need extensions, you do need to reach out to me ahead of time. You do need to reach out to me ahead of time, yes. But, there are some things that you can't reach out to me ahead of time for, and I'm understanding of that as well. So if you get hospitalized, like you get in a car accident, you get hospitalized, I'm not necessarily going to make you give me a doctor's note depending. I can still ask you for a doctor's note if I determine that I need one. But for the most part, I'm pretty easygoing, especially with grad students, to say, okay, you were in the hospital, you're fine, take some time to recover, and we'll work out a new due date for you. Or students get arrested every now and then. I've had students go to jail and not be able to do their work because they were in jail. Once you get out of jail, I'm not going to make you submit court documents. Just get up with me, explain to me what happened, and we'll work on some new due dates. I'm dedicated to y'all's success. We're going to get through this, all right? So that's what I want you all to keep in mind. Okay. Now, I realize that you all have lives, and I'm willing to work with you, but please realize it is unfair for me to be too relaxed with grading because some people do go out of their way to turn things in on time. The classroom is going to be a place of mutual respect with us. Grading and feedback, I will make every effort to get your work graded and back to you within 2 to 3 weeks for your assignments. But honestly, the way semesters end up panning out, it's very unlikely that I'm going to be able to get everything back to you within 3 weeks throughout the semester. There are going to be some times when I'm going to need some extra time, okay? And I'll keep you in the loop if I'm running behind communication. There are a few ways that you all will receive communication from me. You can set up your account so that the announcements can go to your inbox. That is something that can go to your email inbox, and that's something you may want to do. But check your MU email on a regular basis. Also, for me, you also do need to check the announcements on a regular basis as well, because first of all, the announcements are mandatory to read, and that is in the syllabus. It's not mandatory to necessarily follow the links in the syllabus, in the announcements, unless otherwise say so. So if it does say you have to follow the links, then you have to. But if it doesn't say required, you don't have to. But reading the announcements, yes, is required. It is required. That is my main method of communication with my courses, with my students in my classes. And if you do not read the announcements, then it's going to end up hurting you, not me. And I'm going to be very unforgiving, by the way, if you do not read the course announcements, okay? Especially if you don't read the course announcements and then you start asking me stuff that is answered in the course announcements. I'm not going to be nice about that at all, all right? Okay, and then as far as grading and evaluation, here is our breakdown on how the points work. So you can get 100 total points, and 32 of those points will come from discussion. You have 16 discussion board prompts, including your intro, and they are 2 points each. And the way the 2 points works is basically, okay, so 16 discussion board prompts add up to 32 points, right? So with the 16 prompts for each prompt, you need to have an original post, and that's going to count as 1 point. And then you need to have at least one reply to a classmate, and that's going to count as 1 point. And so that will be 2 points. That will be 2 points for each prompt. 2 points for each prompt, and there are 16 prompts. So that adds up to 32 points. So that's how that works, okay? So if you want all 32 points, you need to do every single prompt, and you need to reply to someone every single time. There is a midterm examination. That'll be 7 points. It's going to be open book. It's very easy. It's open book. You all shouldn't have a problem with it. 15 points for sync session attendance. We have 3 sync sessions, and each is worth 5 points. That's 15 points. So again, you need to be there next week next Tuesday, because you are going to have a sync session. And if you don't show up, that's going to be 5 points that you lose. Okay. The 14 points for the banned book report discussion. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. So one of your major assignments is going to be the banned book report. Another one of your major assignments is going to be your final paper, which, again, the debate participants do not have to participate in, and I need to monitor. Okay, so again, if you participate in the debate, you will not have to do that final paper, and you will also get extra credit if you participate in the debate. So that is an incentive to participate in the debate, and I will, again, send an announcement about the debate probably on Wednesday. And then 12 points for your intellectual freedom project, which is actually going to be your advocacy letter this semester. So that's going to be for 100 points total. If you want at least an A, then you need to get at least a 93. A B is for 85 to 92. Excuse me, a C is 75 to 84, and then an F is 74 or below. Excuse me. F is 74 or below. Now, I, as the professor, do reserve the right to award pluses or minuses related to exceptional effort or exceptional lack of effort in any of those grade letter ranges except the F range. You cannot have an F plus or an F minus. But yes, again, so the way that works is, again, like if you were to get like a 92, but I can tell you worked as hard as you could, then instead of a B, you may get a B plus. If you were to get a 93, but I could tell that you just mailed it in and you just did the bare minimum that you could to get an A, then you're going to get an A minus. So that's pretty much how that works. Okay. And then we've got our due dates broken down here. So you do have, again, sync sessions on August the 27th, October the 1st, and November the 5th. The discussions are throughout the semester. First Amendment examination is going to be due on September the 22nd. Banned book report, October 20th. The advocacy letter is going to be due on November the 17th. And then your final paper, if you did not participate in the debate, is going to be due on December 9th. There are 100 points possible. Now, resources and policies. So this is boilerplate. You'll find this on pretty much any actually, there is some that's not boilerplate here, but most of this is boilerplate. You'll find it on any syllabus. So yes, if you need some IT help, then reach out to the help desk, and the best way to do that would be this number here. Most people have cell phones, so they don't necessarily need the toll-free number these days. So 882-5000, area code 573. But if you do need toll-free, there it is. And then also email the help desk if you need to, helpdesk@missouri.edu, and they can help you with your issues. Okay, now we will have 3 sync sessions this semester. I've already gone over that. We don't have to worry about COVID-19 because this is completely online. Academic integrity, be honest, don't cheat. That is basically what that's all about. If you cheat, you're going to fail, and I'm probably going to also try to have you kicked out of the university. Academic inquiry, course discussion, and privacy. What goes on in this course needs to stay in this course, okay? And this is a very contentious course. Your classmates are going to say things that you don't like at times. I'm going to say things that you don't like at times. That's going to be the way that it is. When it comes to your classmates, you do not share what your classmates say outside of this course, and they're not going to do it to you. That is going to be a mutual understanding that we are going to have. You have the freedom to say what you wish to say, and your classmates have the freedom to say what they wish to say. And it stays right here in this class. No exceptions. Do not dox your classmates. Do not screenshot what they say and paste it on your social media. Post it on your social media or something like that and dox your classmates. Don't do anything that could potentially have your classmates having a harder time getting a job once they finish this program. And if you don't do it to them, they shouldn't do it to you either. If it happens to you, you let me know and we'll deal with it. Now, I follow a different set of rules because I'm the instructor. So yes, whatever I say, it can be, you can share it outside of the classroom if you feel the need to. Hopefully you will not feel that need to, but yeah, I don't have the same protections as an instructor, but for your fellow classmates, what happens in our class stays in our class. Keep it that way, and I'm dead damn serious, okay? All right, FERPA. I cannot discuss what you earned in this class or other things without your permission. So there are going to be times when I ask your permission before I send you off to the next person when you have questions. So that just is what it is. Intellectual pluralism, we do appreciate diverse viewpoints. Mental health, please do not suffer in silence. If you have any issues, by all means, if you live in Columbia, you can, or near Columbia, you can actually use the MU Counseling Center. But if you are out of town and having some issues, I would say still reach out to them and see if they have a way to support you as a distant student. They may have some referrals or other things that they can do for you, okay? But please do not suffer in silence. I take mental health very seriously because, first of all, I am diagnosed with a few things myself, including generalized anxiety disorder. But also I was raised by a veteran who has a lot of problems, and the veteran also, he worked as a veteran services officer. So he was a social worker who helped other veterans. So I have seen a lot of mental health issues in my day, a lot, and I started seeing them very early in life. So I take this stuff very seriously, and if you have any mental health issues and challenges, by all means, talk to somebody. Do not suffer in silence. Okay. The next thing is netiquette. Just know that your attempts to be funny may not be funny to other people. So just kind of be aware of that. Try to, again, just show respect within this class at all times. And I'll try to do the same. I do like to pepper in humor, and it's not necessarily good because I'm not exactly funny. If I were, I would be a stand-up comedian and not a library science instructor. But it is what it is. So all I'm going to say to you is on that is, I want us to have a good time, but just remember that things can be misconstrued, especially in the online environment. Religious holidays and accommodations, that kind of goes back to, again, just talk to me. I'm a Noahide, so I don't observe the regular Christian holidays, and I keep kind of an eye on what Jewish people are doing. If you don't know what a Noahide is, basically, we're what Jews refer to as righteous Gentiles, people who think that the Jews are the chosen people and will recognize the Messiah when the Messiah comes. That's basically what Noahidism is. Okay, so I say that to say that, yes, whether you're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, atheist, Hindu, Buddhist, whatever the case may be, your religious holidays or lack thereof, if there is for you atheists of Flying Spaghetti Monster Day, by all means, just let me know what's going on, and I will work with you. And I want to make sure that you stay in a good and healthy mindset, okay? Non-discrimination policy. I will not discriminate against you on the basis of race, color, national origin, ancestry, religion, sex, including gender, pregnancy, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, age, disability, protected veteran status, or anything similar to that. I'm basically not going to discriminate against you at all because I am not here for that. That is not what I'm supposed to be doing, and that is not what I'm interested in doing. Students with disabilities. So if you do have a disability, please reach out to the Disability Center. They will work with you, and then they will get in touch with me and work with me to establish an accommodation plan, okay? All right, and the accommodation plan can be very useful for you if you have a disability, because quite frankly, I can't take this information myself. I have to refer you back to the disabilities office. And so, yeah, if you actually want your disability taken seriously and respected, then don't just tell me. Actually reach out to that office so that they can devise a working accommodation plan with you. Okay. Now let's go ahead and talk about the modules that we're going to have this semester. So unlike, because I know some familiar faces are here or some familiar names. So I know some of you have had me before. Things are a little different in this class as far as, as far as how the modules are. I don't include the modules on the syllabus. And the reason why I don't include the modules on the syllabus is because in a class like Intellectual Freedom, things just change drastically from one semester to the next. So I don't put this stuff on the syllabus because I need to be able to just change it in real time very quickly, okay? So, but these are our modules. This is what we'll be discussing and some of the resources that we will be using throughout the semester. Let's go through it. First of all, in week number 1, or module number 1, I should say, first of all, I'll say that with this class, I bookend the topics, okay? I bookend them so that you have a kind of a soft topic on this first week, and then you have also a soft topic on week 15, okay? And then your more substantial stuff is going to be inside the sandwich, if you will, okay, or inside the bookends. So for this first week, controversial speakers on campus, okay? We can talk about that, and you know that there are a lot of people who get disinvited to campuses. It's happened to Ben Shapiro. It's happened to Bill Maher. It's happened to a lot of people. So we can talk about free speech on campus here. That's going to be how we open up. You're also going to introduce yourself. So you've actually got 2 discussion board prompts this week. React to my essay. I've got an essay right here, and I wrote this essay based on Michael Knowles and his visit to UMKC a few years ago. And I was still working at UMKC at the time. So let's get that down there. So you're going to respond to my essay. That's how my little op-ed there, that's how that's going to work. And then also you're going to read those materials and get a feel for controversial speakers on campus. That's going to be number 1. Oh, actually, let me go back in the student view so you're not seeing all this stuff I disabled. Yeah. Okay, there we go. So that's what you're going to see for Unit 1. Module number 2. So let me just say this. There are two parts to this class. The first part is going to be us talking about the First Amendment and freedom of speech and some exemptions for freedom of speech. And as we go down these modules, I'm going to explain why. So the first few weeks might feel a little bit like a law class, and that can be discouraging. I know some people a lot of students either found the first week either very, very interesting or very, very boring. And I'm hoping that you will find it very, very interesting. But we are going to talk about freedom of speech, one of the freedoms that is guaranteed in that First Amendment, and also some exemptions related to freedom of speech. And the reason why I'm doing this, let me explain it. And this is why it's good to have this check-in video and this opportunity to just talk to you all about these sorts of things, right? So the reason why we have this First Amendment stuff within the like First Amendment, freedom of speech, and exemptions to freedom of speech, the reason why we have that is because of me noticing over the course of my career. And I got my first librarian job in 2008 and started library school in 2006. So if I consider myself having been in the field since 2006, then I am coming up on 20 years. So I've been around, okay? And yeah, with the First Amendment and the freedoms that it offers, I do see librarians saying a lot of things that are not true. Now, first of all, if you're wondering, okay, how is it that he's the one who's right and not those librarians that he's saying is wrong? How is he qualified to say these things? So I will say that I did take, as part of my PhD studies, I did take a media law class, which is basically a freedom of speech class at the University of South Carolina. I took it at the law school, and I took it from Jay Bender, who had been a media lawyer in South Carolina and other places for decades. So that's what qualifies me for this. And yes, and in fact, I did model that half of the class after his course, right? So yes, what I've noticed, especially when it comes to hate speech in particular, and that's why that's such a big deal in this class. When it comes to hate speech, a lot of librarians are wrong about what is and is not allowed. A lot of librarians think that hate speech is unprotected speech due to the Constitution, and it's not. Hate speech is protected. Fighting words are not protected, though, and we're going to talk about the difference, okay? So that's why we talk about First Amendment exemptions, all right? Now, again, in that first module, or that second module, really, but in the second module, we're going to talk about the First Amendment, basics of the First Amendment. Another thing that I want to kind of make clear here as we're going down is you're going to see this James Rich thing a lot in these modules. And so some of you might be thinking to yourself, okay, who the hell is James Rich and why are we reading this stuff that he wrote? So James Rich was, he was in my class the first time that I taught intellectual freedom. So that was back in 2020. He was one of my first students for this particular course. And what it is that I talk about law in this class, but I don't have a JD and I'm not a lawyer, right? James Rich, who is now a librarian with, I believe with UNLV, he actually did have a JD, a Juris Doctorate, before coming to this program. And when he came into this program, he was able to provide a lot of context for my discussion board prompts in ways that I wasn't able to and none of the other students were able to. And he was able to do it because he had that law degree. And so after the class was over, I looked at all his responses and I was like, yo, I need this, man. Can I please use your responses as part of the reading material for future classes, since you do have that JD background and you know how to do legal research? He was like, sure. So he let me use them. So you're going to see James Rich's opinions on a lot of these things. And again, that might be kind of weird, but trust me, he does help conceptualize it, and he helps break it down so that you, if you don't have a JD, you can still understand what this guy with this JD is talking about. So his contributions to the class were very helpful, and that's why they are included now, okay? So you'll see his name a lot. Just get used to that. In week number... When we talk about the First Amendment basics, by the way, we're also going to be talking about the 14th Amendment, because the 14th Amendment does work in tandem with the First Amendment for some of these things. Now, week number 3 is when we start our First Amendment exemptions. So when it comes to First Amendment exemptions, things that are exempt from the First Amendment, meaning that you can't say, oh, I have freedom of speech and be protected when you use these types of speech. These exemptions include obscenity, child pornography, fighting words, and true threats. And you will see case law that makes these things unexempt. And so that's the thing. That's one of the key takeaways that I want you all to take away from this, by the way, is that when things are exempted from First Amendment freedom of speech protections, there is usually a court case that makes them unprotected. So Miller versus California, that established a rubric for what counts as obscenity. And it was this case law, Miller versus California, that made obscenity unprotected speech. So obscenity is not protected. Neither is child pornography, neither are fighting words. That is the Chaplinsky case, that's for fighting words. And then true threats, okay? If something is marked optional, by the way, that means it is optional and you don't have to read it or watch it. So you'll see a lot of stuff that's optional, okay? Week number 4, we have more First Amendment exemptions. Defamation is not protected. Blackmail is not protected. And incitement into lawless action is not protected. So if I were to say, hey, let's go shoot somebody or something stupid like that, and then you report me for that, I can't say, oh, I got freedom of speech. I might be subject to incitement to lawless action if the state that we're in has a statute for that, okay? So these forms of speech are also not protected. However, now we're going to go into Module 5 and show that, yes, hate speech is protected. And I don't know what library school is out here teaching their students that hate speech is not protected, but you won't believe how many librarians will walk up to you with a straight face and say, yeah, hate speech is not protected speech. The Constitution does not protect hate speech. Well, yes, it does. And really the only question you have to ask people when they say that hate speech is protected speech, ask them what case law makes hate speech protected speech. They will not be able to answer that because there is no case law that makes hate speech unprotected. So it does have First Amendment protections. And you'll see this. Supreme Court unanimously affirms there is no hate speech exception to the First Amendment. That means that hate speech is protected. 3 rules of hate speech in the First Amendment. Oh, didn't mean to do that. 3 rules of hate speech in the First Amendment. ALA has a hate speech page. Yada, yada, yada. And then you can keep going down on that. And then we'll be done with that First Amendment stuff, and you'll take a First Amendment examination, which again is open book. So I'm hoping that you all, and you're not timed on this, so I'm hoping that all of you will get all 7 points on that. All right, library neutrality. Again, our sync session next week, we're going to have a panel talking about library neutrality, but then we're going to have additional resources for library neutrality. And this is something that for whatever reason is just a big, big deal in our field. So that's why I have to include it. I personally don't care. If you want to call libraries neutral or say they're neutral, I think you're wrong, but whatever, that's fine. I'm not going to argue with you about it. And if you're going to say libraries are not neutral, then fine. I think you're right. And that's as far as I'm going to go on that. But there are a lot of practitioners in our field that just go on and on and on about this library neutrality. So I have to include it. But you will find that most librarians say that libraries are not neutral. And in fact, most librarians will even tell you that neutrality is impossible. But that's not 100%. And you will meet some librarians who say that we should strive for neutrality. You get in where you fit in. So that just is what it is right there. All right. Now, week number 7. We actually have, because of how things have been over the past few years, we now have 2 modules instead of 1 on book bans. So first is the regular book ban module. And so you'll get more of your background information, and this information right here is more timeless, right? But then week number 8 will also be talking about challenges and book bans, but we'll be talking more about the recent developments in the age of MAGA. Now, I will point this out right now. I am a moderate liberal. I'm center left. Most librarians, at least most vocal librarians, are leftists. Okay, so they are going to have negative opinions on MAGA and that sort of thing. If you are a conservative, I do want to let you know that yes. And if you are MAGA, if you're down with Donald Trump and you want to see him not just for another 4 years, but for eternity, if you want Donald Trump and his family to just be the dictators of the United States, fine. You know what I'm saying? But what I want to say to you in that case is I do want to make sure that you know that I know that it isn't just conservatives who try to ban books. Hardly, 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 hardly. In fact, To Kill a Mockingbird is a good example of a book that was that liberals were trying to challenge, and the reason why liberals were trying to challenge To Kill a Mockingbird was because of its use of the N-word and also because of white saviorism. They felt that the lawyer involved in To Kill a Mockingbird, that whole situation just constituted a white savior narrative, that sort of thing. So it's not just conservatives who are out here banning books, but I am going to keep it real and be honest and say that at least for the past few years, it has been mostly conservatives, and they've been going after things that deal with race, specifically with critical race theory, or they've been going after things that deal with LGBTQ plus identities. All right. But that's not to say that that can't change. I do think that we are going to see times when it's going to be the liberals who are deciding, oh, we can't have that in the library because this, that, and the other, because it's harmful and it's problematic and blah, 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 blah. Okay. But yes, we do have, there's some things that you need to know about the current developments of book banning. Okay. Week number 9, intellectual freedom in juveniles. This is important because a lot of times juveniles do have specific things that you have to think about when determining whether or not you're going to allow them to read this book or access this material or so forth and so on. So we're going to get into that in week number 9. There's going to be a lot to go over there, and there's a lot of optional resources there as well, as you can see. In week number 10, we talk about meeting rooms, spaces, and programs. So that is certainly pertinent to your library career as well. And we're going to talk about real world scenarios and discussion boards with all of these things. Week number 11, that's when we talk about patron and user privacy and confidentiality, because you are going to be expected to protect your users and their privacy. And that does include even when law enforcement comes. If law enforcement comes to you without a warrant, you don't give them jack squat, okay? And if they have a warrant, I recommend you comply, unless you really want to stand on business and spend a few nights in jail. But if they don't have a warrant, they can't force you to give up anything, and the values of this profession will tell you not to give up anything when they come at you with a warrantless search. Okay, so that is our patron, user, and privacy and confidentiality. We want our people to access information without being surveilled or tracked. Week number 12, filters and filtering. That's pretty self-explanatory there. We'll talk about filtering softwares and filtering pros and cons and yada, yada, yada. All right. Week number 13, librarians, libraries, and self-censorship. And that can include, things like content warnings and things like that. But basically, like I just said, I'm not going to censor myself, especially in an intellectual freedom class. Librarians can be guilty of self-censorship a lot, especially when they're trying to make their own jobs easier. They might self-censor in order to save themselves some stress, okay? That happens a lot, but I'm going to encourage you all not to go that route. That's kind of the punk route, if you ask me. And then collection development and management concerns. So we're going to talk about some of the things that end up in library collections and just kind of have a discussion about whether or not they should. And some of those things can include Holocaust denial materials. Should those be in libraries? Should you segregate out LGBTQ plus materials in libraries? Should libraries have things related to creationism? We know that, I shouldn't say that we know that creationism is false, because some of you all might believe in it. That was Dr. J showing his own bias. But I believe in the science of evolution. I do believe that evolution is a proven fact. I think that we've even observed evolution within microbes. That's why microbes develop immunities to certain types of drug treatments and that sort of thing. So we've seen evolution in action, okay? So creationism books, do they belong in the library, right? Those sorts of things, all right? And then finally, we're going to close out with a light topic, intellectual freedom and comedy. We're going to talk about, is it okay to punch down? Is it not? And then also, should you be required to tell the truth in comedy? So those are also some things that we'll go on with, okay? And so those are the topic rundowns that we've got going on. Now let's take a look at the assignments that you are going to be responsible for during the semester, all right? All right, so we've got our beautiful little assignments here. First of all, most of this, of course, as you can see, is discussion board responses. And you all have done discussion boards before, but I will go into one of these just to say, okay, so you'll see this, you'll see a prompt, and you just respond to the prompt. And also you need to do an original post, and then again, you need to reply to one classmate, and that's how you get your 2 points for the week. You can get extra points at my discretion if you have a lot of activity for the week, but you don't have to necessarily wedge yourself to that, okay? Let's see. You do have class attendance next week. Module. Again, this is open book, so you shouldn't have any problems with that. It is also untimed. So this shouldn't be very hard at all, and I'll even open it and let's just see a question. So that is your first question right there. This is probably something that you already know the answer to, so there's that. But again, this is open book, so by all means, take your time with this. It is not going to harm you. If it takes you 5 hours to answer those 7 questions, oh well, get the perfect grade, okay? All right, and then we can go back into assignments. And our band and challenge book report. We want to look at that. So, in week 8, we did have a module for book bans and book challenges, and now you are going to do a banned book report. So here you go. This will tell you exactly what you need to do. And also, I'm going to scroll down really quick. Actually, not what I should be able to do is actually sort this. Okay. So if I sort this, you will also see, nope, that didn't work the way I wanted it to. Okay, so newest first. So again, we've got James Rich, but included James Rich's sample post. You don't have to go by his sample post, as you will see in here. However, if you're totally stumped on how to actually do this banned book report, then by all means, you can look at his sample submission here, and you can base what you do off that. Also, all of you have been assigned books. So your name will be here. Then there's the title of a book, author, and the year that it was published. And so the reason why I'm bringing that up right now is to say, also, if you want to trade with a classmate, then you can do that. So if you want to trade and do a book that is assigned to a classmate, let me know, and we'll try to get that trade working. And if your classmate agrees to the trade, then we will by all means just update the assignment and you can do what you traded for. Also, if you're aware of a commonly banned or challenged book that has not been assigned within the class, by all means reach out to me and say, can I do this instead of what you assigned me? As long as nobody else is doing it, I will allow you likely to do it, as long as it's something that has actually been challenged or banned, okay? And I will need to see some proof of that, most likely. Now, also, this is going to be 500 to 1,100 words. It needs to be something, and the reason why it's a discussion board prompt, by the way, this needs to be something that your classmates wouldn't mind reading, because what's going to happen is after you all do your banned book reports, what I'm going to do is make an announcement saying, okay, you all can read each other's reports. So you can come back if you so choose. That'll be optional, but if you so choose, you can come back to this discussion board prompt and you can look at the work that your classmates did. And it's very good to know these books that have been challenged and why. It's very good to have that information. For one thing, it's just something that you can talk about with your when you go to conferences and things like that, if you're stumped on what to talk about as you're trying to network, that is always something that is in vogue to talk about, okay? So you can go ahead and talk about that. So that was one reason why you want to know. But then another reason why you would want to actually read over the submissions that your classmates did is because that will prepare you. So now you're ready. So now you're thinking to yourself, okay, there are people who want to ban books, and this is why they want to ban them, and I'm ready for it, okay? So that's something I want you all to keep in mind, and that's why you'll be able to see your classmates' work, and that's why you need to write something in such a way that it can be read fairly quickly, usually within 5 minutes, all right? So that's that. All right, so next thing's next. The next thing that we need to talk about really quick after that is the advocacy letter assignment, and that is going to be, so the banned book report is going to be due in October the 20th. Your advocacy letter is going to be due on November the 17th, and this is going to be worth 12 points as well. You do not have to use APA for this. For those of you who have not had me before, those of you who have had me before can tell you I'm a stickler for APA and doing it correctly, but you don't have to use your APA, and it says so here. You don't have to use your APA correctly because you're writing a letter here, and this is the crude rubric that you're going to be evaluated on for your letter. You've got some examples of you've got a example of a advocacy letter here. This was done by my friend, Kawana Bright, who is a library science professor for East Carolina University. So yeah, you've got that there. You're going to write a letter, and then extra points if you actually deliver your letter. So that means either mailing it to who it's intended to, or delivering it at city council or in front of a library board or something like that, okay? If you can prove that you've done that, you'll get some extra credit. But this is basically you advocating for or against something related to intellectual freedom. People typically do book bans, but it doesn't have to be book bans, just a intellectual freedom issue, preferably related to libraries. You would use this opportunity to actually write a letter advocating, for instance, against a book ban or for a library capital project improvement or something of that nature, okay? But when it comes to intellectual freedom, you have to be able to advocate. So this assignment allows me to see how well you can advocate and give you some feedback as well if you need some additional help on how to be an advocate, all right? And then finally, if you do not do the debate, then you will have a final paper, and that final paper will be for you to write an exhaustive 7 to 10 page, double-spaced, 10 to 12 font, point font paper about an intellectual freedom issue. It's going to be just like your typical boring term paper sort of fare. And this is the rubric that you'll be evaluated on. Does it have a thorough historical setup explored? Are you examining the current issues, trends, dilemmas, events, etc.? Have you analyzed what might happen in the future? And then also, are your spelling, grammar, use of English, and APA correct? All right. Now, if you participate in the debate, then you will not have to do that paper. All right, so that's something else that I want you all to be aware of. Now, when we talk about this debate, again, this debate is going to be on November the 5th. And basically, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put an announcement in the class. And it's going to ask for at least 6 people. That would be 3 people arguing that, yes, hate speech should have First Amendment protection, and at least 3 people who are saying no, hate speech should not have First Amendment protection. Now, this is a debate, and it's about your opinion or your position. So I will let you all know again, hate speech does not, hate speech has First Amendment protections. It is not exempt from the First Amendment. It has First Amendment protections. That means that hate speech cannot be criminalized by a government. It cannot be, or a government within the United States, whether it is the federal government, a state government, or local governments. They cannot criminalize hate speech, okay? So whether or not you think they should be able to, and some countries in Europe actually do, if you think they should be able to, then, hey, yeah, right now the courts do not agree with you, but that doesn't mean that you don't have a valid point. So I'll put some information on that. And again, if I don't get 6 at least 6 people and up to 8 people participating. If I don't have at least 6 volunteers, I'm going to draft people. It's just that simple. So you better hope, if you don't want to do it, that I get my 6 volunteers. All right. And that's how the debate is going to work. And we'll do the debate live on November the 5th. Again, it should have come later in the semester, so you had more time to prepare. But at least you can get it out of the way, and you can get it out of the way before Thanksgiving in this case. So that is what it is. All right. Let me see. What else do we need? Hold on. Okay, I really do think that's pretty much everything. Again, I am going to encourage you all to look at the Office of Intellectual Freedom's webpage, the Office of Intellectual Freedom, or OIF, which is part or a subunit of ALA, the American Library Association. I encourage you all to visit their page periodically. You might want to sign up for that digest, but again, I'm going to put the digest in the class when I have time. It's just that I might not have time every single week to do it. But when I remember to do it, I'm going to get it in there for you all. But subscribe for yourself so that you have it regardless of whether or not I put it in there. And outside of that, yeah, that's pretty much all that we have to go over for right now. And then if you have any questions, concerns, anything like that, just reach out to me. The university does prefer that you reach out to me via Canvas. But if you send me an email, just as long as you send your email through your Mizzou account, I don't think that you will actually end up with any penalties that way. Okay, let me put it that way. So finally, what I do want to say, and I tell this to every single class, every single semester. So just, don't take this any sort of way. Don't take it, don't take it for being any larger than what it is, but I am going to say something just for my own sake and to help us actually get through things a little, just a little better, a little more harmoniously. So I am going to give a little spoiler alert here. Spoiler alert. I am Black, as you can see. So the reason why I am bringing that up is because there's something that needs to be said about this culture here in the Midwest. And so I try to address that from the beginning so that we can have a classroom full of mutual respect and go from there. So what I'm going to say is I first started teaching college classes in South Carolina at the University of South Carolina while I was getting my degree there, right? So at the University of South Carolina, I taught my first class in 2012. And my teaching evaluations at the University of South Carolina, they were always good, okay? It was always like people like me. They were saying things like, he's real, he's relatable, we appreciate him, he's one of us. In the South, that's a big deal. When they say, yeah, he's one of us, he's one of us. That means something in the South, trust me. And as somebody who grew up in rural North Carolina, I understand, yes, he's one of us. That's a big deal in the South. So I did well in the South. And I will say that in the South, because of the demographics in the South and because of plantation culture and the history of the South, there are Black people throughout southern states, usually including in the rural areas. Like if you go to rural North Carolina, rural South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Virginia, and then, of course, around the Gulf, even Arkansas and those sorts of things. When you go to states like that, you will actually see Black people in the rural areas as well because of the plantation culture and everything like that. So Southerners tend to be used to Black people even when they're from rural areas. What I didn't really understand and appreciate until I came out here to Missouri, to the Midwest, is that, yeah, in the Midwest, in the urban areas, yeah, if you're from St. Louis or Kansas City or Chicago or Detroit or Topeka or Wichita, whatever, Omaha, then yeah, you're used to seeing Black people because you see them, Des Moines, whatever. But when you're from these small towns, a lot of the people from the small towns have not encountered a lot of Black people and have not had Black teachers, even in undergraduate schools. So I've had a lot of students here at Mizzou who I was their first Black teacher, and I teach graduate school. So they never had a Black teacher in K-12. They never had a Black teacher in undergrad. And the stats pretty much back this up. There's research that shows that a lot of people go through K-12 in this country without ever having a Black instructor, okay? And so, yeah, when I first got to Missouri, my first 2 semesters here, my teaching evaluations were awful. And people were saying things like, oh, he's aggressive, he's abrasive, he's defensive, I'm scared of him, I can't ask him questions, he makes me nervous, blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking, what in the hell is this? Because I never experienced that in South Carolina. So in fall of 2018, I'm reading all this stuff, and I'm like, what's going on? And I'm actually getting depressed. I'm like, okay, did I lose it? What happened? Then in spring 2019, that's when I had some of my first experiences with racism and with people just generally not knowing how to act around Black people. I started having those experiences in 2019. And then I saw the same stuff on my spring 2019 evaluations. Oh, he's abrasive, he's aggressive, blah, 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 blah. And that's when I was like, okay, I think that this is racial discomfort. I think that's what's going on here. I'm teaching the same way that I taught in South Carolina, but I was teaching people who are used to rural Southerners in South Carolina, because you'll see Black people all throughout South Carolina. South Carolina, I think, has the third highest percentage of Black population of any state. I think Mississippi is number one, and then, I don't know, number two, and then number three, I think, is South Carolina. Anyway, all of that to say that people in South Carolina, they didn't find me defensive or abrasive or aggressive because they encountered Black people a lot. And I think that my culture was just foreign to the people out here in the Midwest. So I had to adapt my teaching style in order to not make people so nervous and uncomfortable and everything. And I did that. I started doing my best Wayne Brady impersonation, and just being the type of Black person that white people could be comfortable with. I understood that the white people here are products of their environment, so they might feel a certain way about Black people if they haven't been around Black people. And now what I've got to do is show you that Black people are not that bad. But what I want you all to do is meet me halfway. So again, I made a lot of adjustments with my teaching style and my persona, because who I really am, these Midwesterners cannot really deal with it the same way that the Southerners could. But I can present myself in a way that makes me more approachable to the people in this region, and I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to, what they call it, code switching. That's what it's called. You can Google that term if you haven't heard it before. I code switch a lot in this role, but I'm willing to do it in order to break down some barriers. But I would like for you all to meet me halfway. I'm somebody who definitely feels that an instructor should not have to adjust to the students fully, because how the hell am I even going to do that? I've had that on an evaluation too. A student say, hey, we don't adjust to the instructor adjusts to us. I'm thinking to myself, how do I adjust to 25 different people in my class? I think that it has to actually be a two-way thing. The instructor needs to adjust a little bit to the students, but the students have to adjust to the professor as well. Okay. And that's what you're going to have to do. Because there are going to be certain things that I expect, for instance, that Dr. Bosler is not going to expect, and vice versa. You have to adjust to your instructors as well. It's not a one-way thing. But what I want you all to realize is I have already adjusted to you as far as trying to soften my approach so that you're comfortable with me. Now what I need you all to do is do a little self-examination. So if you find yourself thinking, oh my God, he's so abrasive, oh my God, he's so aggressive, oh my God, I'm scared, I don't want to ask him a question because it makes me nervous because somehow he's going to attack me through the computer or something. Anyway, if you find yourself feeling like that, I want you to do a little self-reflection and ask yourself, okay, is it really me or is it you? I'm just going to put it out there like that. And it might just be you, but that's okay. What I need you to do is get comfortable. This is a learning process, and it's a learning process in more ways than one. You're not just here to learn this content. You're also here to learn how to network, and you're here to learn how to learn from and give instruction to people who are different from you. And believe me, here at Mizzou, almost everybody is different from me, so I know how that is. And I had to learn how to teach people who are different than me, and I learned how. And so I do want you all to experience growth as well. All right, let's wrap it up there. I've been talking for well over an hour. The rest of the check-in videos are not going to be this long, just so you all know. So I do want you all to feel some relief in that as well. But with that said, I am Dr. Jace. Let's start this race, and no check-in video next week. I look forward to having you all join in on the panel where we talk about library neutrality. Take care, guys. Have a great first week.